everybody. Welcome back to the Miraculous Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Joy, and we believe in empowering people through storytelling and education. Last week, we had on Radha, who talked about joy, and I hope you got something out of it. I hope that you are trying out the Daybreakers free monthly membership that she offered to us, and I'd love to know how you are cultivating that, how you're using it, how you are incorporating that into your life. And I will share with you as well. And this week we have on Brita, who I am so excited to have on. She's a pediatric physical therapist. We talk about progress through play, and she just gives us so much information. I'm super excited for you guys to hear from her today. And I'm so grateful that she decided to come on. I feel like I could have talked with her forever. I had so many questions. And there's a lot to learn from today's episode. So make sure that you share it. If you're listening, make sure that you are subscribed to the podcast, that you leave us a 5-star rating and review. So the more people leave reviews, the more that it gets the podcast out there for other people to listen to. So make sure that you are doing that. All right, we are just going to dive right into today's episode. All right, everyone, I have Brita DeStefano here today, and I'm super excited to talk to her because she's a pediatric physical therapist. And I actually worked with one a little bit after Jovi had her tongue and lip tie revised, which I highly recommend that if you're going to do that revision to work with a therapist. But I'm excited to talk to her because I felt like being a first-time mom, now almost a second-time mom, I'm still so clueless on a lot of things. And I feel like your appointments with the pediatrician are so short, and they're like, okay, make sure your baby's doing tummy time and this and whatever. Okay, bye. And I just found myself Googling so many things. And even having a huge family, when it came to me, I'm like, I don't know what I need or what I should do. Am I doing this wrong? Is she supposed to be doing this at this age? So I found Brita's account on Instagram and asked her to come on the podcast. And I'm so excited that she agreed to come on. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. So first of all, before we start, tell us how you got into this world of being a pediatric physical therapist.
So, I've been a pediatric PT for about 11 years now, and I had a light bulb moment when I was in graduate school getting my doctorate in physical therapy that wellness and, is so important from the very beginning, from the get-go, and that it's important to give our kiddos a strong foundation for healthy development, so that we can prevent a lot of the things that we see in older children and teens and adults and in the geriatric population. All of it starts with our infants. And so I've been very passionate about providing support for families and kiddos through pediatric PT ever since.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And I guess I never really thought about how some of these things could affect you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, not to stress parents out, right? When you think of it that way, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, the pressure, which I feel just about raising good humans in general, right? I have 2 of my own kiddos who are now 7 and 5. But more to just help you think about being proactive in terms of supporting your children. And I always tell parents that if there is, an issue or something that you need help with, that your baby or your child is not broken. It's not that we need to fix them. They may just need some support. They may need a little boost. They may need some help, but there's nothing wrong with them, right? We're helping to arm parents with information and education so that they can feel empowered to assist their kiddos and support their development.
Mm-hmm. I feel like it was very eye-opening for me when my daughter was diagnosed with the tongue and the lip tie. And I'm actually super thankful that the place that I went to get it revised, before you can go there, you have to have an appointment with a therapist after, or they recommend starting to do it before. And it was a pediatric orthodontist who performed her, I can't think of any words right now. The revision. And just the way that he explained everything too. And then where we went for her physical therapy, because she had learned how to use different muscles nursing because of her ties, they had to teach her how to use the right muscles. Because if she continued using the wrong ones, that was still going to affect the development of her mouth, and even how much she was getting. So I'm like, what? This is so crazy how all of that happens. And I feel like I learned so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, like for me doing the ties wasn't, because she was nursing pretty well. Like she was gaining tons of weight. It just wasn't the most productive latch, painful. She'd kind of slide off my nipple. And plus she really favored one side. And that was another thing we worked on in the physical therapy was, since she favored one side, it's because she had a lot of tension on her other side. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, you just learn. I'm so glad I got almost that happened, because it showed other issues that were happening that we were able to address. But I feel like that's kind of something, it's like, yeah, my baby just likes nursing on their right side more often than not.
Yeah. People normalize a lot of that, not really understanding that, yes, it's common, but those compensations and the things that you see, like, you know, kind of snowball from the initial issue can affect your kiddo in the long run. And so I just feel like parents need the resources, right? The support, so that they have all that information. I come from a very similar experience. Unfortunately, though, mine did not go as well as yours, because this was 7.5 years ago, and the resources around tongue ties and oral restrictions was not out there and as readily available as it is now. And we did get a revision, but did not have pre and post care. We were not told to do stretches. We were not, you know, I was not seen by a lactation consultant. My son had no therapy, and I was a pediatric physical therapist, but I was not in that realm at the time. Right. Mm-hmm. So since then, we have now had many issues relating to the fact that our tie was actually not fully revised. It's still there. And I have made it my mission now to educate myself since then. And I know so many more things now that I wish I had known 7.5 years ago. And so again, for parents like me in that situation, I just wish that there was more resources out there. And in regards to a lot of the things that I treat in my practice as well. And I'm sure we'll get into those. Mm-hmm. So my mission is just to get the information out there and have parents feel empowered, and also, you know, kind of engaged with their kiddos with a deeper understanding of what's going on with their development. I think that builds some like empathy and compassion and connection with your baby when you understand all the things that are happening in their little bodies and within their, you know, kind of developmental progression. Because we kind of get stuck on like those big checklist milestones at the doctor's office, right? You're like, are they crawling? Are they walking? This. And especially parents who maybe, like me, a little kind of type A or more anxious, and you're constantly thinking about this big thing that my kid's not doing. What I love to do is I come in and we take a step back and we really observe their kiddo, their child, and look at all the things that they are doing. Because there's so many little mini milestones that happen along this developmental journey that are just as important and exciting, at least to me, as those big ones, because they build upon each other, right? And so you need all of those little things to happen to get to those bigger milestones. So I think that helps kind of decrease some of that milestone anxiety, right? When you have that deeper understanding of what's going on.
Right. Well, and I feel like even the comparison, right? Like you have friends who have like kids the same age, and you're like, oh, your kid's walking already, or your kid's doing this. And it's hard not to compare and be like, am I doing something wrong? Do I need to be working on this more with her? Is this, you know, whatever. Whereas it's like, there's time frames that are normal. And then there's, okay, you might need to have some sort of help with this. And then there's, like eventually they're all going to be walking anyways, you know, type thing.
So I tell parents, you have a little bit of that kind anxiety or a lot of it, look at my son's second grade class and all of the kids that are typically developing in his class. Could you tell me which one walked first? Absolutely not.
Right.
There's no way. But on the flip side of that, yes, kiddos will reach each of these milestones on their own timeline, but we also don't have a crystal ball to tell us which kiddos are going to get there on their own and which ones may need a little bit of help. And there is no harm in just going ahead and being proactive and getting your kiddo that help from the get-go instead of waiting to see if they're that one that does need the assistance, right? Until there is that significant red flag that the doctor picks up on and then says, we need to send you for intervention. If you have a question or like a little nagging, in the back of your mind, and you're just wondering, well, how do I support my child to make it to this next milestone? It's so much easier to be proactive when it comes to especially small children and infants, because development happens so quickly and so much is going on. Like, let's not wait, right? And miss out on all these opportunities to help support them.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we're going to take a quick break. I know I've talked on here before about Stitch Fix and how much I have loved using them. And I want to talk to you about Stitch Fix Freestyle. I've been slowly transforming my closet into a place that I actually like. I feel like for a really long time that it's just been like frumpy clothes, comfy, which there's definitely nothing wrong with comfy, but you can also have comfy and confidence and have something that you actually feel good in. And I want to tell you about the Stitch Fix Freestyle. It is your trusted style destination where you can discover and instantly buy curated items based on your style, likes, and lifestyle. So whether you're looking for a specific brand that you love or to try a new one, at Stitch Fix Freestyle, you can shop a range of over 1,000 brands personalized to your size and fit. Plus, there's no subscription required. They offer free shipping, returns, and exchanges, and you can find something for any occasion. Comfy, business, whatever it is, maternity. I know last year with Jovi, when I was pregnant with Jovi, I got quite a few outfits from there that I absolutely loved, just like sundresses that were flowy. So I am doing it again, transforming my closet into a place that I actually enjoy being in, that I can confidently walk in and pick up any article of clothing and be confident wearing it. So get started today by filling out your style quiz at stitchfix.com/mamas. That's stitchfix.com/mamas to try Stitch Fix Freestyle. stitchfix.com/mamas. So I'd love to talk about like what is some of the best ways to help support them, because again, I feel like as a new parent, you're just sold so many things. Like even like registering for my baby shower, people are like, oh, you have to get this thing. You have to get that thing. It was a lifesaver for me. And luckily, like we had older siblings who gave us like a bunch of hand-me-downs, which is nice because we didn't spend like a lot of money on these bigger items that actually ended up not even working for us. Like my daughter did not like the swing at all. She preferred to lay on the floor. And there was moments where I'm like, oh, I wish she would just sit in the swing, whatever. But I mean, come to find out, the best thing for her was to be on the floor. And so I'd love to just kind of talk about how we're kind of sold to like put our kids into all these different containers to contain them, when sometimes just letting them roam about is what's best.
Definitely. So there's a $1 billion baby industry out there, really kind of taking advantage of vulnerable new parents, right? You're going to be sleep deprived. Mm-hmm. You are in this newborn haze, or you're registering and comparing, so-and-so has this, and, my cousin's next door neighbor says, I have to have this, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of pressure. And then you're going to get targeted ads on Instagram, and you see all these things that you're going to feel like you need or your baby needs. And I like to help parents kind of take a step back from that and understand that these containers, and when I say containers, I mean anything that your baby goes inside, basically, that can be, anything from a necessary container like a high chair, a car seat, or a stroller, to our swings and our bumbos and our jumpers and all of those things. But what those devices are convenience items for you as a parent. Mm-hmm. So we have to switch our thinking and reframe. They are not items that will progress your baby's development. So a bumbo is not going to teach your baby to sit up. Exerciser is not going to teach your baby to stand. They are instead a tool for you to go get the laundry done, or do the dishes, or cook dinner, or take your shower, or work from home, whatever it may be. So I think when parents take a step back and kind of look at it through a different lens, that helps kind of prevent the overuse, which is what we see. So containers are not, evil, right? Some are better than others. We can discuss that as well, but they're okay in moderation. That's the key, right? So when you think of it, you think of your daily routine and you say, okay, so here's the times of day where I really need to make sure my baby is entertained, they're going to be happy, so that I can have this chunk of maybe like 15 minutes to, help the siblings get ready in the morning, or whatever it may be. And then you're intentionally using that item, instead of what happens when you don't use it intentionally is that you end up with, multiple containers kind of in every room. Your baby wakes up and they kind of go in one thing and then they move to another thing. And we kind of call that the container shuffle, where baby just moves from the swing to the bouncer to the car seat to the stroller. And then you get to the end of the day and realize, I don't know if my baby was ever down on the floor. And the floor is where your baby will build all of their motor skills. So all the milestones you want them to reach will happen on the floor. And I think this all kind of starts with our registry process, right? And so what I coach parents who are expecting when they're making their registries is that you can go ahead and leave those off, actually, right? You don't need to put a bouncer and a bumbo and a swing and a jumper and an exerciser and all of these things on your registry. Instead, you can focus on, our necessary containers, right? Your stroller, your car seat, your high chair, a great baby carrier, those items. And they may be a little higher ticket price. And so maybe you encourage friends and family to go in together to get you those items. And then you leave the other containers, the convenience items, off until your baby arrives. And then you see, what's my baby's temperament like? Do they like the floor? Because if they do, then we didn't need the $200 swing. And then you can see what your day-to-day routine is like, and where there might be a moment in that routine that it would be helpful for you to have one of those convenience items. And then you can really think about it and be intentional when you're purchasing something about what's going to be most helpful for you and your baby. Mm-hmm. And that can avoid some of that overuse that we talked about.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, Jovi, honestly just loved the floor. So even if I was in the kitchen cooking dinner, she had a play mat that had, I don't know what it's called, that had some dangly things above it, whatever. And I just put it on the kitchen table, because this was before she was rolling or anything, and just cook dinner.
Well, and I know sometimes it can seem scary to put a newborn down on the floor, but you can, if you start that routine from the very beginning, your baby begins to learn to expect it and know that it's okay, and it is a safe space. And I understand some families are hesitant because they may have pets or they have older siblings. And like you, when your second comes, it may be a different setup. But there's always ways that we can create that safe space for your baby. So whether it's using a pack and play instead of, an open floor space, or using baby gates or a play pen, play yard type deal, there's always options, right? Mm-hmm. We just want that firm, flat surface for baby to be able to move freely, because when they move freely, they learn about their body and how their body moves, and they're able to kind of have trial and error where they're like, whoops, that didn't work that time. I'm going to try it differently this time. And they need a lot of repetition of movement to build new. And so you need to give them that opportunity. So that ample time down on the floor is really going to help set them up for success.
So you brought up move freely, which immediately sent my mind to swaddling. And I know so many people who are like, swaddling is like the only way my baby slept, all these different things. And we swaddled Jovi, I think, till like she was 4 months maybe, but only like at nighttime. But then when we transitioned her out of the swaddle, she actually slept so much better for us. And she's a belly sleeper too. So once she learned how to roll, she was like sleeping way better. So I would love to talk about swaddles because I feel like that's something that I was told too, like make sure you get a really good swaddle because my baby slept great when I swaddled them up. Whereas like my daughter didn't sleep great till like a month ago. So it didn't really make a difference for us.
Yeah. So, I've got my PT side and my mom side. Neither of my kids enjoyed being swaddled. They also weren't great sleepers. But here's my approach when I'm talking to families about it. There's two things that we want to understand. And one is that sleep is really key for development, right? So while free movement is important for learning, if our baby is really sleep deprived or not getting good quality sleep, it's going to affect their daytime, right? And if they're fussy all day long, they're probably not going to be getting a lot of time on the floor because they're going to be needing a lot of calming and being held and all of that, where they may be in containers a little bit more. So there's kind of a sweet spot where every family is going to have to kind of assess their baby's sleep needs and their own sleep needs for their own mental health. The parent side comes in a lot here when we talk about sleep. A well-rested mom is also really important for our babies. And so if swaddling is what gets your baby that good sleep in the beginning, absolutely. If they don't like the swaddle, don't use the swaddle. But what I, on my PT side of things, want parents to understand is that there is a point where we need to get our babies out of the swaddle, developmentally and safety-wise, right? Mm-hmm. So if a baby rolls in a swaddle, it's unsafe because they do not have their arms free. They can't clear their head. And so as soon as you start seeing precursors to rolling, so not the first time your baby rolls, we need to have your baby out of that swaddle even before that first roll happens, because very, very often our babies will do a skill for the first time in the crib in the middle of the night. Parents who are listening, if you've been through this, the first time your baby's sitting up, you walk in the morning, you're like, how did you get there? You've never sat up before, right? So it's a safe space for them. They often practice their skills in their sleep or in the crib. And so that first roll very well could happen in the middle of the night. So we want to be really careful about making sure we wean them out of that swaddle before that happens. So what does that mean, right? What are precursors to rolling? We're talking about back to belly, right? We always are putting our babies to sleep on their backs. And then if they can independently move out of that position, it's fine. But for a baby to roll from their back to their belly, they typically first learn to start grabbing their toes and like lifting their legs up, right? That little cute, kind of happy baby position. And once that happens, babies can very easily, tip themselves over onto their sides. And then if their head and neck is strong enough from tummy time, then they'll flip themselves over. So if you notice your 3 to 4 month old already starting to grab their toes, we got to get that swaddle off. And if you're okay with kind of weaning earlier than that, that's great, to allow some of those precursor skills to start happening. So that's like my PT and mom approach to swaddling.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because sometimes it's also like about survival in it too.
And parenting is not black and white. So I can't do that, you're sleep experience and your swaddle experience will be the same as another family that I work with. So I always give them all the information and then say, you guys take this and do what you feel is right for your family and your child.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with like sleep sacks at all, or no?
Not at all.
Okay. All right. Perfect. This holiday season, Everlywell can help you give more. By gifting an Everlywell at-home lab test, you're giving your loved ones more comfort, clarity, self-discovery, and joy and well-being. Everlywell offers affordable and at-home lab tests that give you trusted physician-reviewed results. They have so many different options to choose from. You can do the food sensitive test, the metabolism test, sleep and stress, thyroid, heavy metal toxins, things like that. They just have so many options on there to choose from. I definitely encourage you to go check it out. I actually did the food sensitivity test, and how it works is they ship the test right to your door with everything needed for a simple sample collection. And then you return the test to a CLIA certified lab with a prepaid shipping label. And then your physician-reviewed results and insights are sent to your device in just days. And there's over 1 million people that have trusted Everlywell with their at-home lab testing. And it's just such a great way to get a little some knowledge on your health if you're trying to figure out different things going on in your health. It's just a great place to start. I know that I used their test a few years ago and just redid the food sensitivity test because of some digestive issues that I've been having. And this holiday, you can give more of what matters with an Everlywell at-home lab test. And for our listeners, Everlywell is offering a special discount of 20% off an at-home lab test, everlywell.com/mamas. That's everlywell.com/mamas for 20% off your at-home lab test, everlywell.com/mamas. Now back to the episode. So I'd love to maybe talk about like a couple other things. Cause I remember being told, like, just being taught that that's what you do. You swaddle your baby, you put them to bed, and that there really wasn't like any other options. And I'd notice like if the swaddle wasn't tight enough, like she'd always get an arm out or whatever. And I think she seemed happier that way. But also she was in the NICU for a week. So I feel like there was a lot of things like out of our control as far as like, basically if you're in the NICU, you have to have a pacifier. They have a bunch of different babies there that soothes them, and swaddling. But it's really funny because like at 4 months, she literally stopped taking a pacifier just completely on her own. And we transitioned her out of the swaddle and she never looked back, like, for either of them. So, which was kind of a relief that like we never had to break that habit. But I'd love to just talk about like maybe a few other habits that are just like supernatural that you're told like you need to swaddle your baby and put them to bed type thing, that maybe aren't necessarily true.
Well, I think one thing that I hear a lot of parents stress out about currently is how much of a buzzword tummy time has become, right?
Yeah.
They're told you go to the pediatrician and they just say like, how many minutes is your baby doing of tummy time? Or even, oh, your baby's head is getting flat, just do more tummy time, or tummy time. It's like the only thing parents hear. Then they also don't get any support in terms of what does that look like? What does that mean? How do I support my baby in tummy time? But on the flip side of that, our babies are 3-dimensional beings, right? So tummy time is not the only important position for your baby to play in. I like to use this analogy of think of your baby like a rotisserie chicken. It always gets parents to laugh, but it helps them remember it because we want babies to have experience playing in all positions. So on their back, laying on their side, laying on their tummy, and then supported in an upright position. And so I want that rotisserie chicken, your baby to get cooked on all sides. So you can build that into your floor time routine, right? So this time I put my baby down, they're going to be playing on their back. Maybe next time they're playing on their side. Next time they're playing on their tummy. And it gives them that variety, that opportunity to experience different planes of movement. And then they don't get stuck, right? We want our babies to learn how to roll, but they've never been on their side before. So how scary is that to like have to go from back to tummy when I've never even experienced this position in the middle? So that really kind of helps set that good foundation. But then what happens when your baby doesn't like tummy time, right? Your pediatrician is saying, well, do more, do more, do more. And for a parent whose kiddo just screams the second they get on their tummy, I mean, for me, as a mom, that was very triggering. So if my baby really was unhappy in a specific position and was screaming, the screaming would then trigger me and I would just avoid it. And it would be a cycle of avoidance. Well, if we avoid a certain position long enough, our babies then don't know how to utilize that position, you know, when they're trying to learn these new skills. And what I want parents to understand is that there are always options. There are always ways that we can help either modify tummy time or put our detective hat on and figure out, well, why is this baby really uncomfortable in tummy time? Do they have some tightness? Do they have some weakness? Do they have some low muscle tone? Do they have some oral restrictions? So stretching our neck out is uncomfortable and lifting our head up. There's so many things that we can potentially do to help your child tolerate tummy time or even enjoy tummy time, that I want parents to know that they can seek out that help, that they don't have to just kind of avoid the position or lie to the pediatrician when they ask, like, how much tummy time is your baby getting? That's one of those things that you can be really proactive about in seeking out help, because the way development happens in infants is from the top down. So all development, motor development, starts with the head, and it goes from the head all the way down to the feet once baby gets standing. So where does a baby learn how to control their head? In tummy time, because that's where they're lifting it up against gravity and they're strengthening those muscles and they're learning to look around. So if we miss that opportunity, then we're going to have some implications for our development later on. So we want to help support our kiddos in that early on as avoiding it. And physical therapists are out there willing and ready to help parents with that specific thing so that we don't have that big red flag down the road when they say my baby won't crawl because we've, missed out on this thing early on.
Yeah, it is stressful going to the pediatrician and hearing that, because honestly, I didn't know that much about it. Again, like being a first-time parent, I feel like you're clueless. And Jovi did not like tummy time, so we just really didn't do it. And then I remember going to the pediatrician, and she's like, she should be doing 5 minutes 3 times a day at this point. And I'm like, she's just supposed to like lay there and scream for 5 minutes? Like, that's not happening. And it was actually, I got really fortunate that like a little bit after I got her releases, her tongue and lip tie release, that I had an amazing lactation consultant that came to the house, and she watched everything. And then she put Jovi on the floor and she showed me like exercises to do with her on the floor, how to entertain her into tummy time, how to do some modified tummy time. And it was just like, and she's like, you can send me videos if you feel like you're not doing this right. You could like text me pictures, whatever. And that's where I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't just lay her on her tummy. You know, like I can do this little toy and like have her watch it, lift her head, or have her look over here with it, or prop her a little bit to like help modify and roll her. She had me like rolling her, and but I didn't know any of that, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't have this lactation consultant. So I just feel like like you said, the pediatrician's just kind of like, you need to do tummy time, and then you're like, my kid hates it, like, or okay, so I just lay him on their stomach. then what?
Yeah. And then you just kind of start fudging it every time they ask you about it. But that's a good point that you make too, is that parents don't typically have a background in infant development, right? So you shouldn't expect them to know that. But nobody is out there offering this education or these resources up front. It's more like a parent has to ask for it or seek it out themselves, right? And it's a little frustrating for us on my end as physical therapists, because we are out there really wanting to give this support to parents. And so the more we can, kind of get that information into the hands of new parents, maybe even before baby arrives, you kind of have an understanding of like, oh, well, this is how I support my baby's development from the very beginning. Or what I like to say too is that understanding what your expectations are for tummy time, because tummy time for a 2-month-old is not the same as tummy time for a 5-month-old. It's going to look completely different. But a lot of parents have no idea what the difference is or what it should look like, kind of across the different stages. And as your baby grows, what do we expect a 4-month-old to be able to do in tummy time? And so again, it's that education that I think all parents deserve.
Honestly, at 2 months old, I didn't even know I was supposed to be doing it.
Right.
I had no idea. They're like, how much tummy time are you doing? I was like, what?
And it's something that you can start from day one. And I tell parents when I work with them, did baby go on your chest after they were born? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, there we go. That was your beginning of tummy time. And it may seem a little daunting to do it on the floor right from the very beginning. So that's okay if you do it, laying back on your chest, or you can do it on your lap. You can, I really like a position that I like to do with little ones, especially because faces are so motivating for our younger babies who really don't have developed vision, is I sit down on the floor and I put baby on the couch to do tummy time. And I support them in that position, and then we're face to face. And there's just so many options out there and so many ways that we can help support babies to tolerate and enjoy the position, that I hate to hear parents that have just struggled or avoided and then get to the point where they come to see me because, there's X delay or whatever on the road. And so,
yeah. I feel like you said, like right now is the big thing, like that people hear a lot is tummy time. And I feel like everything kind of goes through different, seasons or where things are really loud. And I just feel like the big thing for me, at least when Joby was born, was like sleep. Was all about sleep. Like, is she sleeping? Is she whatever? Or like even just trying to keep this, like, I was just so wrapped up in trying to keep this like strict schedule with her as far as like eat, sleep, play, and every 3 hours and whatever, like just trying to like time everything, which I feel like I'll be a lot more relaxed actually with my second kid, because first of all, you kind of have to a little bit. I've found, at least for us, that routine works very well. But not always a super rigid schedule. I've just kind of read her cues, and she's actually like sleeping way better, which has been great for us. But I know that doesn't work for everybody. You have to figure out what works for you. And it took me a year to figure out what worked for us. So,
well, I like what you say though. And routines are different than schedules, right? Yeah. Schedule means you do everything at the exact same time. Routine is that you build expectations of what comes first, then next, then last. And it doesn't matter if you do it at 9 a.m. or 9:30 or 10, it's that your baby learns what to expect. And if our kids know what to expect, they behave differently, right? This is, for infants and toddlers and my 7-year-old and, on and on and on. And what I find important from the beginning, if you're building those routines, is make sure that, I fully understand in your newborn haze. And as a new parent, you're like, is my baby eating? Is my baby sleeping? These like very important things. But on the flip side of that, is my baby getting floor time? Can we build floor time into our routine from the beginning? Can we build, tummy time into our diaper change routine? So every time we change a diaper, we just roll baby on over to their tummy. And then we know you don't have to get to the end of the day and be like, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Like, did I ever do tummy time today? You're like, oh, well, I changed like 11 diapers. So it's tummy time, even if it's like 30 seconds or a minute, sing Twinkle, Twinkle, and then see how many, repetitions of Twinkle, Twinkle you get that day. But truly, it's like, what can we do to make life easier as a parent of a newborn, right? We want to kind of try and decrease some of those things that can be, decrease some of those things that can be added stress. And so routines can do that, because then you're kind of on autopilot. You're like, okay, yeah, every time I change that diaper, we just roll baby on over, we get our tummy time in, and then we don't have to think about it. So I think that what you said is important, and it'll be important as you bring a second kiddo into your family, is that your routines may change a little bit, but it's just really helpful for the parents and the kids on both ends.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned earlier about the baby registry, and one of the things that you said to invest in is a baby carrier. So I'd love to talk about that, because the way you talked about it didn't seem like another quote unquote container. So like by carrier, did you mean like baby wearing?
Yes. So I kind of divide containers into our necessary containers and our convenience containers. And baby wearing, while not necessary, right? Not everybody has to wear their babies. Some people don't enjoy it, or their babies don't enjoy it. So it's kind of right there in the middle, right? But I think that, even though your baby is, contained in a baby carrier, the pros of baby wearing far, far, far outweigh that, restricted movement. So yes, I always encourage families, if they would like to try baby wearing, to, either invest in a great carrier or go to, a lending library or a baby wearing, course or whatever it may be, to figure out what's going to be best for them in that range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I tried it with Jovi a little bit, but I ended up like putting her down a lot. But I feel like with baby number 2, since Jovi's going to be so young, I'm like, I'm just going to have to wear this baby like out the door, like, because that's the only way I'm going to be able to do anything.
Absolutely. Being able to be hands-free when you have a toddler and a newborn is key. Mm-hmm. And my second was worn 10 times more than my first was. And it's, again, right, like out of necessity. And I think it's a great thing and a great option to have. And I would rather your baby be in a baby carrier than, maybe a bumbo seat or a swing or whatever. So
mm-hmm.
my mom opinion on the baby.
I'm excited to try it this time, because I feel like, last time I did it a couple times in the beginning, my husband would actually wear her more. Like if we went for a walk or something, he would wear her in like a carrier. But I feel like, with this one, I definitely want to try it, because with Jovi, then I waited, like I didn't do it from the beginning. Then I waited till she was like a little bit bigger. Then I'm like, oh my gosh, my back hurts. Like I can't do this.
Yeah, well, and that's why it's important too, to know that not every carrier is going to be right for you. And so mm-hmm. the carrier for your friend who may have a different body type and a different size baby may not work for you, or the one that works for your husband may not work for you. And so there are educators out there, right? Baby wearing educators who will have many options, and you can actually go and try them out, and they can help you also, if you have a specific carrier, how to adjust it for you and your baby and make sure you're not having any pain with it. So you don't have to suffer from so I'm never going to use it type of deal, that there is also help out there on that front as well.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap up, is there anything else? Because I know you have 5 things that you like to teach, and we talked about tummy time, containers. I'm not sure what else is on that list.
Yeah, let's go through them quickly here to end out. We talked about free floor time, right? That's what's going to build our motor skills, that we can start tummy time from day one and build that into our routine so baby knows to expect it. And we can reach out for help early if they're not tolerating it well. The next one is that we are going to rotisserie our baby. Give them opportunities to play in all different positions. The next one that we didn't touch on yet is learning to observe our babies. And parents kind of look at me funny when I say that because, of course, I'm like staring at my cute newborn all day long. What do you mean observing my baby? And it's observing it through kind of a different lens. And so this is a skill that I kind of teach families that I work with. And it's, what should I be looking for when I'm staring at my baby all day long or scrolling through all the pictures on my phone or whatever it may be? So this skill of observing your baby can be really helpful to maybe find issues early on or catch things before they become a big problem. And so what do I teach parents to look for when they're observing their babies? I have them look for symmetry. So development should happen symmetrically. So if we are seeing your baby always looking to one side or always preferring one breast over the other or always tilting one ear down to their shoulder or using one side of their body more than the other or their head flattening on one side, those are all clues that something's not quite right. And we need to delve deeper and kind of figure out what that may be. Is it that we have something called torticollis, which is a tight muscle in their neck? Do they have, kind of restricted range of motion in the rest of their body? Do they have oral ties? Do they have weakness on one side of their body? There's all of these things that if we catch early is so much easier to help work through with your baby than if we wait and see, which a lot of parents are hearing from providers. And so when we teach parents to be those really good observers of their baby, they know their baby's best. They're the ones that are with them all day, every day. So they can notice that, yeah, my baby always looks to the left side. Every time I set them down, they're always looking over here. Or every time, I put them to sleep and then I come get them in the morning, they're always in that same position, right? We can notice those things if we know what to look for. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of what that observation piece is that you're understanding how development's supposed to happen and kind of what to look for when you're just, kind of staring all day at your adorable baby. And then the other things you can learn from that are like, what motivates my baby? If I sit back and look when I set them down on the floor, do they really like, the mirror? Do they really like my face? Do they really like this one specific, everybody gets the black and white cards mm-hmm. now. Fantastic. And I love them. But, people will find if you kind of watch how your baby reacts that like, oh, they really like the ones with the zigzags or with the zebra on it. And so you can learn a lot about your baby in terms of their motivation and their temperament from just kind of sitting back and observing them a little bit. So that's the other thing I like to teach parents. And then the last one is that we have to be okay with letting our kiddos fail. And it's very hard for some parents and me even, that we talked a little bit earlier about how trial and error is important. And so oftentimes we want to swoop in and help immediately if we see our baby struggling, but we can actually start building that frustration tolerance from the very beginning. So when our baby learns to roll over, but their arm gets stuck, if every single time you just swoop in and get that arm out for them, how are they going to learn the motor pattern and the muscles that they need to activate to actually get that out on their own? So waiting a beat, right? Just a pause. Doesn't mean you have to, never help them or, let them get into a full-blown, crying fit or anything. But you kind of watch again to see like, well, how how much can they kind of struggle, and will they figure it out if I wait, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, and just let them kind of have that moment of trial and error and frustration, right? And that's how they will learn. And we even use this mantra with my 5 and 7-year-old now, is that we learn by messing up. Mm-hmm. Never know the right way to do something until you figure out the wrong way. And so this goes for our babies as well. They will fall over a ton when they're learning how to sit or how to walk. And we kind of have to sometimes let ourselves be okay with that. And it can be tough, but it's a skill that you can learn as a parent that will be helpful for your kiddo as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. This is making me really excited to have my second baby, because I'm like, oh, so many new skills that I can practice with them that I didn't with Jovi.
Yeah. Well, we always do the best that we can with the information that we have, right? I gave that in the beginning. It's like, I have all this information that I wish I had 7 years ago with my son, but you can't let that guilt creep in, right? Of, oh, I wish I did that, or I wish I did this. You just say, I did the best I can, or I did the best I could with the information that I had then. And I'm excited to do what I can now with the new information that I have.
Yeah. That's kind of a saying that we say on here all the time. Cause I feel like experts will come on and be like, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. And it's like, don't take this and look back, just take this and look forward, because you can't change anything. And my daughter's doing great. I mean, she's amazing. I remember being at my in-laws and they're like, you have to put her in the walker. And I was like, no.
Yes. So that's one that we didn't quite touch on earlier. Please don't put your baby in the walkers that they go inside with the wheels on the bottom. Those are banned in pretty much all other countries. And I don't know why we are lagging behind in that, but they will not help teach your baby how to walk. So
yeah, there's a lot of things banned in other countries that aren't banned here. So yeah, but yeah, I'm excited to have another baby and to like try to, I feel like Jovi, so she'll be 18 months when the baby's born, and she has like a little baby doll that she loves and plays with. So like excited to like kind of incorporate her into it, like, oh, let's see what baby does, type thing. And try to make it so that I can make her a part of it. I have no idea what I'm doing though. So.
And what I tell parents who are expecting their second is also to be aware of the potential for that comparison to actually come in comparing siblings, right? So we experience it with comparing our child to maybe other people's children, but it can also kind of creep in between your own two children where, my first child walked at 10 months. How come this one's still not walking yet, right? And so when we talk about like observing and learning our children, we can also gain a deeper understanding of like what their kind of timeline looks like. Like this baby is really movement motivated. And so they're constantly kind of gaining new skills, but this kiddo is a little bit more chill maybe, right? And not as motivated by movement. And so they may be a little bit later to roll. And then if they're later to roll, I would expect them to be a little bit later to sit and later to crawl. And like, we know that when we, sit back and look at each individual child and not at like just a checklist and an arbitrary timeline, that, we can have a better understanding of kind of what to expect. And when you're, expecting your second, just knowing that there's the potential for you to kind of have some of those feelings. Yeah. Why aren't they doing this? I'm doing all the things that I'm supposed to do, right? That our kiddos are all very unique and different, and their developmental timelines will reflect that.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, you look at your kid in second grade and you're like, can you tell which one walked first?
No. Absolutely.
So I want to thank you. You gave us so much great information today. And I feel like there just needs to be like, I don't know, like more information for new parents, because I felt so clueless. And even now having my second, I'm still learning, I learned so much today. And I would love for you to tell people like where to find you, what you offer, and how to connect with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I have a practice called Progress Through Play. You can find me on Instagram under that handle. And I offer in-home like physical therapy, developmental wellness, all of that in the Denver area in Colorado. And then I also have virtual services. So if you are outside of Denver, but you are looking for some of that education, I just offer milestones consultations where we just go deeper into understanding what does your child's developmental journey and pathway look like? What are those mini milestones that they're working on now? How do you support them in tummy time? And what do you do if you're noticing a flat spot on your baby's head? We want to be proactive about all of these things. And so I do offer some virtual services so that we can get the ball rolling on a lot of that stuff. And then I have some courses, rolling course, walking course, a tummy time guide that has specific pictures about what tummy time is supposed to look like at each stage and how to modify, what to do if your baby doesn't like it, and all of those things. So I'm really trying to reach as many parents as I can through all of these offerings to have those resources available for them. Mm-hmm. And I love connecting with people through my Instagram platform where we connected, and my, messages are always open, and I hope to connect with some of you on there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And speaking about baby registries, like, I feel like sometimes, at least for me, like, I feel like not even necessarily putting things on your registry, but buying a friend a course or setting up a meal train, just like other things that will be useful.
Support.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely. I would much rather gift a friend, a lactation visit versus a bumbo, and so the same goes for my services. If you want to gift your friend a tummy time consultation or my rolling course or whatever, I think that is awesome.
Yeah, me too. I think that that's such a great idea. Because again, like, we're all just kind of clueless. Like, I feel like even people that have gone before me, like our older siblings and stuff, like, when you ask them like, hey, what'd you do for this? It's like, you lay them on your stomach, whatever, like there's not like good information. So, gifting that to a new mom, I feel like it's just something that helps bring that peace of mind. And then that you're practicing this with your kid, and it's like one less thing that you're like, am I doing this right? They hate it. Oh no, like what's happening?
Well, I love that you just said peace of mind, because that's actually kind of part of my like tagline and my spiel is that every parent deserves that peace of mind about their child's own unique developmental pathway. And my little, mantra is that milestones shouldn't be a mystery. So I don't want you to be going down that Google rabbit hole at 3 a.m. wondering why your baby's not rolling over, right? And so just knowing that there's a place to go for those answers, that, Google is not going to tell you what is normal for your baby, right? So talking to an expert who can look at your whole child and give you that peace of mind, I think can be really important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Thank you so much, Brita, for coming on the podcast. And you gave us so much information today. So I just want to thank you for sharing your time, your energy, and your expertise. And I'll make sure to leave in the show notes where everyone can connect with you.
Thank you so much.
Make sure you go follow her on Instagram. She has so much information on there that I'm learning. And again, I just feel like I feel like I just had a newborn not too long ago, like a year ago I had one, and I'm going to have one soon. And I forgot everything. Like, I don't know what to do with a newborn. I don't know what to look out for. I don't know like what to do. So I'm so glad I found an account like hers. Because there's so many things that we aren't told, or maybe that pediatricians aren't trained to diagnose or see. you really almost need a whole team of people, a lactation consultant, a pediatrician, physical therapist. Like, I don't know. So, she just gives so many tips on there and things to do to help guide you, on this parenting path, because it is just full of so much useless information and it's sometimes hard to like find the things that really matter. So it's, I really enjoyed my conversation with her. Make sure that you go and follow her. Everything will be linked in the show notes. And I'm just, again, so grateful that she decided to come on. I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving last week. We went to Texas and celebrated with family, and just grateful for that opportunity. It's nice to be able to do that, to travel and and be able to go see family. The weather here is so weird this year. Like last Thanksgiving, I remember it was so snowy. And this year, not at all. So it's actually been pretty warm this year. We've had a very mild fall so far. I'm ready for winter, though, guys. I know some people think I'm crazy, but I am a winter gal, and I am ready for it. The only thing that sucks is like going for walks with Jovi then, because the area that we live in doesn't have tons of sidewalks. So if there's like a lot of snow and ice or slush or anything like that, it's not necessarily the best, or I'll like be trapped in a certain area because when the snow plows come through, it blocks off certain sidewalks. So that part can be tricky, but I'm sure I'll figure it out this year. Anyways, I love you guys. Make sure you reach out to me, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.
If you want to be the most interesting person at the cocktail party, well, hop on over and listen to the Brain Candy podcast.
Our award-winning content will have you laughing while you're learning.
We read all the best articles, books, and studies, and keep up with new TV shows, documentaries, and pop culture. And then we cram it all into 2 shows a week.
Conspiracy theories, cannibal rabbits, unsolved mysteries, the history of the Walkman. There's something for everyone.
The Brain Candy podcast. Find our link in the show notes.
Or simply search for the Brain Candy podcast on your podcast app.